Vivian realized that she couldn't just carry it all. Today the market was so good that she could not resist, and she bought a lot of fruit. It's easy to buy, it's easy to buy, but how to carry it? She would have to take a cab. She walked through the market, looking for a place where she could put all the bags down and finally get her phone out. Just when she saw an empty place, a young man who jumped out of the store almost knocked her down. Almost knocked her down. Bags fell down, some tore, and Vivian shrieked. Paul rushed out to help her pick fruit. He had another argument with his father, so jumped out into the street too quickly. He understood that it was market day, that there were a lot of people, but he lost his temper and ran out without looking at anyone. I'm so sorry. I should be more careful. Come on, I'm also walking and twiddling my thumbs. Now how to get it all to the gate and put it into a cab? Let me help you. I have a car not far from here. Well, at least I'll redeem myself somehow. Paul looked at the girl and wanted to shout, say yes. The girl was very beautiful. She looked like a simple pair of jeans and a t-shirt. Not a bit of a makeup, but she reeked of something delicate. Paul was surrounded by girls of another kind, but he didn't want to compare. Seeing that the girl was thinking, he hurried to say, My name is Paul, and I'm not a maniac at all. The girl laughed. Do you really mind? I am Vivian, by the way. They walked to his car, put all their purchases together, and got inside. Where are we headed? The girl gave him the address, and they drove off. Paul always drove fast, but now he drove as slowly as possible to talk to Vivian. Say, wouldn't you find me cheeky if I ask you to go to the movies? I won't. In fact, I can go only on Saturday. It's great that you can do it at all. I'm looking forward to Saturday. They drove up to the house, and Paul whistled. What a mansion! Do you live here? Yes, my parents bought this house not too long ago. Just 3 months ago. Are your parents that rich? Yes, but I wouldn't really want to talk about it. I'm sorry, yes, it doesn't make any difference. And it was true. Paul knew that he couldn't get past this girl in any case. He helped her get the bags. I'm really looking forward to Saturday. I'll be there at 5 o'clock, okay? Vivian nodded. Yeah, I'll be out in 5. It was nice to meet you. She disappeared behind the gate, and Paul drove towards home. An hour ago, he had argued with his father about not giving him money for a trip to the seaside with his friends. Paul, what are you talking about? See? You know there's a lot of work now. We have 4 stores, and I work alone. At least you can help me during the season. You're already 26. Dad, what do you want? To sit in your stores in this weather? Yes, that's exactly what I would like. It's time to earn some money by yourself. Paul got angry. Always only money, money, money. I don't want. Well, if you don't want it, you don't want the money either. Apparently you don't need it. So you won't give it to me? Why? You don't want to work. You deny money. Or am I wrong? That's when Paul jumped out in the street, and there's Vivian. He had just reached home when his phone beeped. A text message about the enrollment. Dad sent the money. Only Paul had already decided he wasn't going anywhere. In the evening, the father was surprised to find his son home. Why didn't you leave? I wired you money. Dad, I changed my mind. Also, it's Tuesday. I can help you until Saturday. Are you serious? I'm glad. It's really hard for me to do everything on my own. Paul reasoned that time would pass slowly until Saturday, so if he helped his father, Saturday would probably come sooner. During the few days, he helped his father. They became very close. After his mother was gone, he and his father didn't have a very warm relationship, purely mutually beneficial. Although it was profitable for Paul. How his father felt, he never cared. He told his father that he had met a beautiful girl. Dad, their house is so big. I think they're millionaires. What if Vivian's not allowed to see me? Well, first of all, we don't know what kind of millionaires they are. 1 million is also a million, only it doesn't mean anything. And then, what makes you think that? Maybe they're quite adequate people. Paul hesitated, then said, You see, Dad, it's very strange. With a house like this, it's understandable that people have a lot of money. But then, why does their daughter run to the market herself, buy groceries, and carry them home? It's kinda weird, don't you think? You're right there. It doesn't make sense. Well, we'll see. On Saturday, the girl came out minute by minute. She was wearing a light-colored dress that made her look even prettier. Vivian, you're just adorable. Thank you very much. They had a wonderful evening. They went to the cinema, to a cafe, Paul and Vivian had such a good time that the first night he decided that he would never let her go. The only thing left to do was to take some time to propose her. He told his father all about it. He answered, "Well, I guess it takes some time to date, to get to know each other better. It wouldn't hurt to know something about the family either. It's all too confusing in there." "Yes, Dad, I understand. But even if her parents are some secret ogres who don't go out, I'm still marrying Vivian." It had been 2 months. Paul couldn't wait any longer. He proposed to Vivian. The girl jumped onto his neck. "Vivian, we need to meet your parents." It was like she was scared. "Paul, let's do it later. They're gone away. I don't know when they'll be back." "Well, that doesn't seem right." "It's okay, really." "Okay, we'll decide later. Let's go to the registry office to apply, shall we?" "Ah, sure." In the evening, Paul left her at the gate and drove home. Something tugged at his heart, but what it was, he did not understand. And just before he got home, he hit the brakes hard. He got it. Last names. Vivian and the people who lived in the house had different last names. And here's where it gets quite interesting. Why was Vivian so reluctant for him to meet her parents? In the evening, he and his father talked. He said thoughtfully, "I wish to look at them. How they communicate. Vivian doesn't invite you to visit?" "No, she says her parents are gone. I don't know what to think." "Dad, can I borrow your courier uniform? I'll sneak in as a courier and take a look around." "It's not a bad idea. But what if it's dangerous?" "Well, Dad, come on. They're not bandits." 3 days later, Paul bought 2 tickets to a concert, put them in an envelope, and headed for Vivian's house. He was shaking a little, as if he could sense some secret was about to be revealed to him. It was impossible to recognize Paul. The girls in his father's store had done their best. Not only he was wearing a courier uniform, but a wig, a cap, glasses, and even a big mole on his cheek and a mustache under his nose. After a few questions, he was escorted inside the house. He entered, stopped at the threshold to wait for the owners, and almost immediately saw Vivian. She was wearing a white maid's apron, dusting the shelves. A woman came up to Paul, a very thin, sickly woman. She silently signed her name and looked at Paul. "Something else?" "No, no, thank you." Paul rushed out the house. It all made sense to him now. Vivian was lying to him. But why? He wandered the streets for a long time, then came home after all. His father was waiting for him. "Well, what?" "Dad, she's not a daughter. She's a maid there." The father whistled. "It's okay. If she's afraid, you don't want her poor. But what if there's something wrong with her head?" "Well, I would have noticed." "Dad, what should I do?" "Whatever way you look at it, you need to talk to Vivian, and then it's up to the circumstances." Vivian called in the evening. "Hi, where did you disappear to?" "Vivian, tell me, when will your parents be home?" "Did something happen, Paul? Don't you think it's strange that we have a wedding coming up, and I and my father don't know your family?" Vivian hesitated. Paul immediately continued speaking to avoid listening to any more lies. "I was at your place today. I know the parents are home. Although, are they the parents for you? You're a maid, aren't you?" "It means I wasn't wrong. I heard your voice." "All right, tomorrow at 5. I'll expect you and your father to visit." Vivian hung up the phone. Paul didn't have time to say anything. Now everything was completely confusing. What guests if she's a maid? The father said, "We're going. After all, you're my son, and I want to figure it all out too." A surprised guard opened the door for them, but Vivian immediately appeared on the porch and waved at him. She invited them in. In the big room were the owners of the house. The man was very unhappy. "Vivian, I don't understand what's going on, but if you don't explain everything now, you'll be fired." "Don't worry, Mr. Taylor. I'm not working for you starting tomorrow." The hostess looked at her in surprise, but remained silent. "I realize that everyone here is waiting for an explanation, so I'll start at the beginning. 23 years ago, a child was born to this family. It was not exactly the child they wanted, because the child was like a pain in Mr. Taylor's neck. He married a heiress of $1 million fortune just to get the money. Carol, his young wife, was ill, and Mr. Taylor hoped that very soon he would be in charge of all the money. But—" "Shut up! What do you think you're doing?" The master of the house was agitated, but his wife said, "Wait, Adam. Let her finish." "I'm going to call the police now." Vivian nodded. "Call it in. I think that not only Carol will be interested to know that her child is alive." The hostess went pale and settled back in her chair. Mr. Taylor rushed over to her. Honey, is everything alright? She pushed it away, and Vivian continued. Adam paid the entire staff, and before his wife came to, he carried the baby out in a bag and left it in the nearest garbage dump. He told his wife that the baby was dead. Maybe Carol would have gotten to the bottom of it, but she fell into depression. And by the way, Adam helped that depression by feeding her pills all the time. Except Adam's hopes were not realized. An older man found the bag and took it home. They didn't tell anyone about the find for a year, and then they had to. He and his wife had no children, and the girl became their child. I've been looking for you for a long time, digging into this case for a long time. I came here to get revenge. But when I saw my mother, I realized that she didn't deserve revenge. I don't know how much longer it would have lasted, but I met Paul. Falling in love was never in my plans, but I did. I told him the truth, not to impress him, but to push myself to confess. Paul, forgive me please, if you can. The girl fell silent, and Carol stood up. She did not look at her husband. She walked over to Vivian, who handed her a folder of papers. It's all there, and the certificates, the result of the test, and what they told me at the clinic. Carol turned to her husband. He outburst. What are you staring at? I married you. You were going to die every day, and you never did. You cheated me. Do you really think I could love someone like you? You can't prove anything. Carol began to fall. Paul's father rushed to her, and Adam, taking advantage of the panic, rushed out of the house. Paul followed him. Well, no. Make so many people unhappy and just run away like that? Adam was jailed. Vivian had such an evidence base that the investigators could only shake their hands. They wish all crimes were investigated in such detail. And 2 months later, Vivian and Paul had their wedding. It was beautiful and loud. Vivian was the only bride who had 2 mothers and 1 father. She did not think of Adam as her father. When the party was in full swing, Vivian whispered in her young husband's ear, Paul, look at my mom and your dad. Don't you feel anything? Paul smiled. He did notice it. And this morning his father came to talk to him. Son, here's the thing. The other day you asked me for advice, and now it's my turn. Do you think that if I propose to Carol, won't it look a little untimely or something? Dad, I'm so happy for you. How about tonight, at the wedding? Everything is solemn and beautiful. His father looked at him doubtfully. Do you think? Paul smiled at his wife. Honey, 5 minutes of patience. The slow dance ended, and everyone suddenly parted, leaving Carol and Paul's father on the platform. The woman looked around in surprise, but then a beautiful melody began to play. Someone handed the man a bouquet of flowers, and Carol flashed. He got down on one knee, put the flowers in front of her on the floor, and handed her a box with a ring. Carol, will you be my wife? There was complete silence in the hall. Yes, of course, yes. She threw herself at the man, and everyone around her applauded.